easy. But experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It's race day here in Chicago as the Formula College World Championship heads up to Illinois for tonight's running of the Windy City Donkey Dash Grand Prix. I'm your host, Cade Corbin, joined by our play-by-play commentator, Jackson Lambros, set to bring you one of probably what's going to be one of the best races of the season. It's just the second true street course that we've seen. When we went to Long Beach, it was absolute calamity. And Jackson, I think tonight we're going to see more of the same.
I mean, if you take Long Beach and amplify the energy of what makes that race so chaotic, the bumps, the challenge, the shortness, it's so many different aspects of what makes street racing so chaotic, so challenging. And I mean, we talk about it being crunch time for the championship. A lot of things could happen here, not just tonight, but in terms of the championship picture, a lot could potentially here could unfold, Cade.
And we have seen a lot of shifting in the past few weeks. Of course, the doubleheader at Iowa was absolute chaos. And then another shake-up last week with the weather issues that affected some of our point leaders. So heading into this one, it's all going to be about a combination of maximizing your points day, and if you can get yourself in a good spot, doing a little bit of damage control.
No, absolutely, Cade. And I think we were looking at some of the drivers, not too much of a shocker, but struggling to stay consistently on pace here. We know how much of this race is a struggle for the Cup guys to keep their cars straight, and just the ability for these Indy cars to be so twitchy, so difficult to correct, to drive it on the absolute limit is a challenge, especially when it's for, nearly 90 minutes straight. So going to be a very challenging race, both mentally and physically. And I think whoever is going to have that highest level of fortitude is going to be the number one driver tonight.
Now, you mentioned there the similarity to the Cup race. We ran here in the Garage Shop College Cup Series on Monday. That race was won by Ryan Whitlock with good runs from Clint Halterman and Muhammad Ali. And I have to imagine that there's going to be at least a little bit of carryover between the two cars, not necessarily because the cars are similar, but because the tracks are absolutely identical. The way that the cars take the bumps, how you get affected by that bumpy surface that makes it so challenging, so slick, especially as the heat builds up in the tires. So I think those are three guys that we're really going to want to pay attention to. Again, talking about if you run well in the Cup Series, you run well in the FC Series. We saw it with Clint Halterman in Iowa, and I think we could see it with that same group of guys here again tonight.
No, 100%. And I think as much as I don't want to say, and as much of a favorite that this man is, it literally has taken a tornado to keep Muhammad Ali from running at the front of the field. But I think you add in that ability of insane pace with master car control, driving on the absolute limit. He is absolutely going to be someone to look out for. And it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts, because again, with that DNF due to circumstances out of his control, it's going to be interesting to see how he drives. But yeah, I think you make a really good point in mentioning the Cup guys. I don't think necessarily how the cars are going to behave is going to be a major factor, but you learn different things about the track in different cars, where there are bumps, where certain parts of the track grip up, where marbles build up, where grip is added, where are optimal places to overtake, and obviously, some different ways you're going to race here in an open wheeler compared to a cup car, but a lot of different approaches to driving, I think, tonight. Because again, this is not a car combo that we see, car track combo that we see in real life. iRacing has done it officially a couple times. So, I mean, a few guys might have a couple of weeks under their belt, but I think for a lot of guys in the field tonight, it's completely fresh.
Now, we did run this race last season in Season 5 here in the Formula College World Championship. Should be no surprise that race was won by our Muhammad Ali, sat on the pole, went out and dominated it. And a couple of other guys to maybe keep an eye on if anything is to be learned from that race. Cale Davidson and Lucas Moody rounded out the top 3 for a complete Ball State sweep. As we get ready to head to qualifying here, quick update on those point standings. Our Muhammad Ali right now has it by 30 over Clint Halterman. Cale Davidson 33 back of his teammate for the points lead. Jake Cummings and Wyatt Burton both in the top 5. Wyatt Burton in the 5th spot. With 3 races left to go in the season, all mathematically have a shot at the championship. So if we can, let's ride along with one of those point leaders as we head into qualifying. Drivers just about getting ready. They'll have 3 laps to set the fastest lap that they can and get within 105% of the fastest set lap time. So let's go ahead and hop on board with Wyatt Burton if we can. How about he ran this race in the Cup Series, had a pretty good run going for getting caught up in an incident and finishing a couple of laps off the lead pace. So Burton was able to learn some stuff on Monday, and we'll see if he can apply it here on Wednesday.
No, 100%. And again, we talk about potential underdogs in this championship fight. I think Wyatt Burton maybe a half-court shot for making this championship. But again, we've seen the pace he's had all season long. It will be interesting to see what he's able to do tonight, especially with Michigan. We know how fast he can be on the ovals as well. So again, a very, I don't want to say a championship upset, but definitely a guy who can mix the pot here as we finally see him coming out of pit row and starting to get that IR18 up to pace here on the streets of Chicago.
And you can see him swerving back and forth, wants to get as much heat in those tires as we can. Tire temperature, I think, is something that we talk about so much because it's so important. There is an optimal range that these tires want to be in. When you first come out of pit road, that temperature is pretty far below that range. And so you're going to do everything that you can, finding bumps, swerving down straightaways to get heat in those tires. But we're going to talk about it again later in the race because as the temperature surpasses that optimum range, the tires get hot, they get slick, they lose grip, and it becomes ever so difficult to actually make pace.
Working this 8, 9, 10 combination of corners here around the clock tower, then back on the binders into turn 12 as he heads back over for the start-finish line. That was turn 11. Here is turn 12 as he comes back to the stripe. Wyatt Burton in that 26. He's on it.
And if we can hop on board here with Wyatt Burton, we'll get a look at what it takes to do a qualifying lap as he throws the back end around. Here going into turn number 2, you want to hit that apex just a little bit late and then get hard down the straightaway. You should be flat out here. This little junk to the right called the kink, that's turn 3. Heavy braking zone into turn 4. You can see going to get down to 3rd gear now, all the way down to 1st. Through the first of 2 sections, notably sponsored by McDonald's, and those 2 sections are very narrow. We're going to see another one here at the end of the circuit, but first he's got to go through a heavy braking zone down into turn 6. This coming up over the bridge for the first time. We'll see this same bridge again on the second half a lap. This going back through that complex that Jackson mentioned last time, which takes you around the fountain of downtown Chicago. Not quite able to keep that one flat out just because of the bumps. You can see how rough it is. That car bouncing all over the place through the second McDonald's section, back up over the bridge, and taking a hard right onto the home straightaway. Want to carry as much momentum as you can, which means getting into the throttle as early as you can. But again, going over those bumps, it makes it all the easier to spin that car out. And that was a pretty good lap from Wyatt Burton, a 1:11.75. Right now setting him just about 1 second off of the provisional pole, which for the moment is being held by Cale Davidson.
2.14 mile ribbon of concrete here in the Windy City. And to ask you how bumpy it is, NASCAR set their affiliates out here to Chicago to test to see if Michelin Pilot Challenge or WeatherTech Sports Car Championship could do some kind of support series out here. And the guys that do Sebring for 12 hours every single year called it too tight and too bumpy. So we are some kind of crazy here for deciding let's go throw a bunch of Indy cars around here for well over 50 laps. So going to be very, very interesting to see what we can do. Also, such a tight entrance to the pit entrance there. Very, very quickly, you've got to stay to the inside and chuck it on the other side of that inside retaining wall. Pretty much just an open hole to spit you back out. No real blend line. So look out for some chaos there once we get to our pit windows as Cale Davidson improves coming across the stripe from his second fastest lap. Goes to second quickest overall as he works his way back down such a hard braking section right there going down Lakeshore 3 and 2. You're chucking the car in and you're asking for so much from that outer left, front left Firestone. So that chuck to the left and then hard on the brakes. You're on the absolute limit of grip as we look over to your boy here. Cade Ryan Whitlock in 6th, trying to improve, get himself into the top 5.
Yeah, Whitlock, winner of the Cup race on Monday. He was also qualified really well in that race, and I know because I was in that race too, and he absolutely smoked me. But he looking to do a little bit more smoking again, back in the 6th spot right now, but still pretty close to the pole time. We'll see if he improves with that lap. That one looked pretty good.
Not enough. Oh, top
we'll
5.
Jump him up. But one other thing that we do want to mention, and this was a problem in the Cup race as well, is the 105% cutoff time. Basically means take the fastest time that's been set, multiply that by 105%, and if you cannot get within that lap between qualifying and practice, you will not be allowed to race. It's a little bit of a safety measure. You know, you don't want cars going significantly slower around the track, as you can see how slippery it is as Dylan Beatty grabs the outside wall and decides to park it. So right now, the current pole time is for Muhammad Alif a 110.1, which means right now, if you want to be within 105% of that, you have to have a lap that's a 113.6. And I see a couple of drivers who are right around that number. And if you can't get to that number, that is within about 3.5 seconds of Muhammad Alif. So Andrew McManus right now on the cut. Still, though, 3 minutes left in qualifying, plenty of time to turn a lap and get within that requirement.
Not the 500, but we've got a bumping of our own here on the streets of Chicago. And again, safety precaution. The last thing you want is guys being rolling chicanes or, you know, killing themselves out there trying to even keep at pace. And at a place like the Chicago street circuit, there's no such thing as a one-car accident. I say the same thing about Long Beach. I say the same thing about Detroit. I say the same thing about Bathurst. If you are going in the wall, it's not a one-car incident. You're taking somebody else with you. And I think that requires, one, a high level of focus and pace and core control, but I think it takes a little bit of respect, mutual respect and understanding that these guys are not going to go necessarily balls to the wall from the drop of the green. But as much as I want to say that, we know what's up for grabs for these guys. So we shall see. Lucas Moody back on to Columbus, trying to get that number 13 for Ball State back into the top 10 to the line. Improves up to, there it is, P9.
And I believe you said that last week about Watkins Glen, and I think you may have said it the week before as well. For Road Atlanta about how we're just going to take it easy into turn 1. We'll fire it off. They know they're on cold tires and they know they got a long race ahead of them. And what do you know? We go ahead and wad it up into turn 1. So I think there's a definitely possibility, especially as narrow as this track is, as challenging as it is, as technical as it is, definite possibility of seeing a little bit of attrition on lap number 1.
No, yeah, you say that, but I mean, granted, we haven't really gotten like a big kahuna, like a major stack up in turn 1. And I'm really proud of the guys for not doing that at Watkins Glen, because God, that's a perfect place to do it. But, I mean, I don't want to say it's going to happen today, but I like the chances. You know, tight corner, guys trying to make moves early on. Not going to have, it's somehow narrower than Long Beach going into turn 1, more difficult to overtake. So we will ultimately have to see. But no, I think we'll have a couple cars probably hit out here in lap 1, but hopefully nothing too crazy. By the way, I messed up the fountain. It's funny how this is actually laid out, because that little loop I was talking about earlier on that 8, 9, and 10 section, that's just a normal part of the road they chose to dig around between the bridges. The fountain is actually on the other side of the start-finish straight. That's the same little complex where the Chicago Bean is. So, that's on me.
We'll figure it out. We got 50 laps here, which means this is going to be over 100 miles on the streets of Chicago, qualifying wrapping up less than a minute, which means it looks like we are going to be rolling off with Muhammad and Leaf and Clint Halterman on the front row. Those were, again, two of the best drivers in the Cup race, and they have been two of the best drivers all season. And I honestly think this is a race where we might be able to see someone take the fight to a Leaf, not just because of luck, not just because of an EOL, but because of actual pace. I don't think Muhammad Alif has this one in the bag as much as he has at other road courses this season.
I just think it's car control over pace here, Cade, being able to adapt to that car as you lose grip over time, because again, you do not have those wide open concrete runoff areas that are like there to welcome you the same way we had it at, Road Atlanta and Watkins Glen. Just like Long Beach, if you make a mistake, if you make even a little twitch when you're on the absolute limit, you've got a big concrete barrier there to greet you. So, I mean, a couple of areas, maybe when you lose it on the brakes, the area in between, turn 2, turn 4, and 5 have a couple of runoff areas. But even then, with how tightly knit this field will be in the first opening laps, I think it is going to be incredibly tight, and we're going to, any mistake, at the very worst, you're losing no less than 5 positions. So,
qualifying has wrapped up. Muhammad Alif sitting on the pole, so we'll go ahead and get you your complete starting lineup if we have that ready for you. Rolling off on the pole for the Windy City Donkey Dash Grand Prix, presented by the Donkey Sanctuary, it's Muhammad Alif, Ball State University, alongside Clint Halterman from UNC Charlotte. Rolling off in row number 2, it's Ball State's Cale Davidson, alongside Keegan Cowett from St. Clair College, his best start of the season. In the 5th position, it's Ryan Whitlock from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, your winner on Monday, alongside Wyatt Burton from Trine University. In P7, it's Dylan Beatty from Ball State. He starts next to Jake Cummings from Converse. In the 9th position, oh so close last week at Watkins Glen, it's Ben Fiore from Marist College, starting next to Lucas Moody from Ball State.
Grant Schiller gets us started in 11th for St. Clair. He's alongside Ball State's Nick Henley, the 64, starting in 12th. P13, Andrew Voigt off a strong running at Watkins. Starts alongside Thomas Crump, two guys with strong running in New York, trying to carry that momentum here in the Windy City. P19, the showrunner, Ricky Paz for ECU in 15th. He's alongside Grant Schollenberger for Wingate in 16th. P17, Aiken Lamar, another guy with a really strong finish at Watkins last weekend, rolls off in 17th alongside a guy with a rough weekend at New York, Jason Wallet for Drexel. Rounding out the top 20, Nick Stockner for Clemson University, getting close to the cut line here, but Adrian Tubakovic in that mouthy helmet for St. Clair College rounds us out in the top 20 here, Cade.
Starting 21st, it is Andrew Burrell from Clemson University. He starts next to Zohir Mirza, the rookie from St. Clair College. In the 23rd position, Esteban Munoz from FIU starts next to Jacob Dick from Ball State. Rolling off 25th, it's Joseph Grajava from Purdue University. He starts next to Andrew McManus from the University of Toledo, making his first start of the season. And unfortunately, just behind him, Carson Wallers and Caden Hughes were not able to meet that cutoff time, so it'll be a 26-car strong field here for the race. It looks like McManus actually only made it by 1/10 of a second. So
Wow.
unfortunately, Wallers and Hughes getting sent home. Everybody else, in about 2 minutes, will get gridded up to run 50 laps. And now that we've seen qualifying, Jackson, I got to ask, who's your pick?
I really want to say Muhammad Alif. It hurts me to say that, but I mean, you know the level of performance that guy is able to perform, like week in, week out, and again, in any circumstances, this would be a weekend where I feel like people are able to bring the fight to him, but he hasn't cracked under pressure at all this season. We've seen how much he's improved in areas where he's struggled in past seasons, oval racing, street racing. So again, it's hard for me to totally sell you on this considering how Long Beach went for him, but give me Muhammad Alif.
Well, you could have him. I'm going to go ahead, and for the second week in a row, I'm going to take Clint Halterman, because that man has been on an absolute tear recently across all of the CIL series. He's run really well in the short track series. He's won a couple races recently in the Cup series, and now he's a two-time winner here in the FC series. On top of that, he qualified in second, finished second on Monday. I think today he does one spot better, and Clint Halterman going to be your winner here at Chicago. Another guy I do want to keep my eye on is Ben Fiore. I've watched him out of the corner of my eye all season. I've really liked what I've seen out of that 55 car. He was second at Watkins Glen, and I think he can follow it up with another top 5 today.
Strong running, and I think we've got a lot of guys, who were running really, really strong at Watkins Glen. Granted, Ball State kind of pushed a lot of those guys forward, but some really, really good battles, in and out of the top 10, and it's going to be interesting to see. You got a lot of really talented guys. Munoz stands out to me. He's, well outside the top 10, but it's going to be interesting to see what he can do to make the charge forward here as we start to turn our eyes trackside here and get set for the Windy City Donkey Dash Grand Prix. But no, we're throwing these names out here, Cade, but genuinely for anybody in chat, our guess is as good as yours.
And that being said, if there is a specific driver that you want to see a little bit of a shout out on, when we get a green flag run, we'll go ahead and try to cover down on those guys for you. So use that chat feature there with the YouTube stream. I'm seeing right now shout outs for Ball State and Andrew McManus. We'll be keeping an eye on those drivers for you tonight. But if there's anybody else you want to see, thank you for watching. We hope you can enjoy. And we'll take a moment as well to shout out everybody who makes the CIO possible. Our great admin teams, our great production team, Lee Kane doing it behind the scenes for us tonight, ready to bring you live flag-to-flag coverage from the virtual Chicago street courts.
Yep, let's get a roll call in chat here. Where you watching from, who you rooting for, who you got for the win, as we get set for the penultimate road course round of the 2025 spring season here, with Muhammad Alif and Clint Halterman on the front row. Our guess is genuinely as good as yours when it comes to winners. Strategy is going to be, I think, another big maybe here. Undercut, I think, is probably one that goes in the rearview mirror, as you're getting thrown to the wolves there if you pit early.
You definitely don't want to find yourself back in traffic, but you don't want to spend too long on old tires either. So it is going to be a very fine line to walk about when you pit, which compound you're on. This race has that compound swap. I'm seeing a lot of guys, looks like, starting this race on the primary tire, so that should maintain life for a little bit longer into the run. But as we work our way into turn 11 under the pace lap, that safety car should pull off this time, and Alif and Halterman will lead us to the green.
Pit window here is very dependent. It's going to be a tire wear race here, as we know how abrasive these street circuits can be on these tires. 50 laps of wild street racing ahead of us in the Windy City. Green flag is out, and we're in session here in Chicago. Good start from Muhammad Alif as everybody gets on the gas. Muhammad Alif clears everybody. Trouble further back as the big kahuna happens way further back. Numerous cars involved. One of the Clemsons, I think that's Crum.
That is Thomas
One of the
Crump.
Toledo
Andrew
cars
McManus
involved. Oh my goodness, no yellow flag yet. but several cars involved as we watch the replay. Oh my goodness, Thomas Crum losing it, collects Grant Schiller and others as people able to get away relatively clean. Nick Henley for Ball State collected as well, as Andrew McManus in the 16 just loses it on his own in the brakes, reverses it into turn 1. Lost it all on his own there.
And a full course caution has been thrown. So for just the second time this season, we are under yellow at a road course. So we'll get the field stacked back up, give those guys a couple of opportunities to maybe repair some damage. They'll get a single file restart here. So hopefully the next time we throw them off into turn 1, it'll be a little less chaotic. But that just goes to show you how difficult it is. You want to get aggressive and get on those brakes going into turn 1, but your tires just don't have grip. You hit those bumps, and unfortunately, there were about 4 or 5 cars that were made significant victims in that one.
Again, not as bad as I was necessarily fearing it was going to be, but obviously not good. You know, a lot of the Ball State guys trying to hit the ground running again after the issues they had last weekend, so fingers crossed that they will be able to get it running once again. Fuel run here, by the way, is going to be about ballpark 25 laps, so about even here when it comes to the field, although this is really going to shake things up in terms of fuel mileage, fuel strategy, as these guys are getting a lot of laps of free fuel here. I'll tell you what, this is definitely something that's going to benefit the guys on the primaries, as they're going to be able to stretch that stint on the longer lasting Firestones even farther.
Yeah, I think it doesn't do too much for you in terms of actually keeping life in those tires. But like you said, it's going to allow you to keep them on longer and run less laps on the alternates. If the alternates really do fall off as quickly as we are anticipating that they will, then you are not going to want to run a full 25-lap fuel run on those red sidewall tires. So this right here allows you to push the fuel window, run as long as you can on the primaries, and make this a one-stop race. We've also seen in the past that some drivers have a tendency to split it into thirds or quarters. So right now, there's definitely a lot of strategies still on the table. I don't know if this necessarily opens up any more strategies, but it might equal them out a little bit and make it an even more mixed bag if we do get a green flag run.
Bond hello to everybody in chat, especially the Wyatt Burton Mr. Excitement fan club here, as we've got a couple people in here rooting on the 26. Great question from Jackson Branrowski. Great name. Random question. Is there a CIL for GT3 or sports car racing? There is. Granted, we just concluded that season about 2-3 weeks ago, but a bi-weekly IMSA-style GT3 series that was crowned by, a shocker to not anybody in the CIL arena, but
hold up. I gotta
crowned by our Muhammad Ali.
We are not actually done with that season. We have one more race coming up in a couple of weeks. That will be at the Nordschleife. That will be the season finale. You're absolutely right. Our Muhammad Ali is doing incredibly well in the championship for that one, but it is not locked up yet. That'll be, I believe, this upcoming Thursday, broadcast here on the CIL YouTube channel, brought to you by the esteemed panel. So you're not going to want to miss that one, the 2 hours of the green hell. But that will conclude the season for the GT3 CIL series called the Collegiate Sports Car Challenge.
And if you are interested at all at joining in on the CSC action here at the buzzer, you can just tap on that Discord link in our description and get talking to the right people and get involved. Always welcoming to drivers from everybody. Drivers from every walk of life, every school, whether you're a student or an alumni. Clint Halterman in the 100, who's been on a hot streak. St. Clair alumni. So even though you might be out of school, you're definitely still allowed in this league as long as you're representing and flying the flag for your alma mater.
So looks like the lights are off on the safety car, so we should be going green this time. The only driver that was given terminal damage from that wreck was Andrew McManus. So his debut lasts about maybe 500 feet. And unfortunately, the driver from Toledo has to go home, and he'll have to try again here in the FC Series another day.
Next week at Michigan is going to be a great opportunity for that. I'll tell you what. Just so many spaces, so many places you can put pace. This is a hard one to break into for sure.
McManus, no stranger to the ovals, runs a pretty good amount on the cup side of things. Decided to come over and try out an IndyCar for the first time this season. So hopefully we'll see McManus and some few other faces back at Michigan. That one's sure to be a great one that you are not going to want to miss. We've been advertising a lot of future events lately, but we still have 47 to go in this one. About to take the green, Armaham Leaf. Cale Davidson grabbed second on the initial jump there, and he is now slotted himself solidly into the second rung of the podium, and that's where he'll fire off from for what is essentially the drop of the green flag.
So as you heard from Cade, position swap there between Cale Davidson and Clint Halterman. Wyatt Burton waiting in the wings for an opportunity to strike. Single file this time. Let's give it one more go. Back to it here in Chicago. Hammer dropped early on from Muhammad Alif as everybody continues single file. One look to the outside. I believe Lucas Moody giving a look around the outside of Ben Fiore, but a very clean restart now. Everybody through turn one, nice and smooth. Ooh, a little bit of a rub there. Cale Davidson gets up against the wall. That'll allow Clint Halterman to potentially sail on by side here into turn number 3 and 4. Davidson not giving it up quite yet. Now will surrender it. Gives a little bit of a look to the inside, tries the over-under, and Cade gets it done.
Great run from Cale Davidson. That opens the door for Wyatt Burton. Burton going to be put on the outside of turn 6. Now he sweeps underneath. Hard on the brakes for Burton. They're going to go side by side. No contact there, but Halterman gets the power down better and exits the corner cleanly. That opens the door for Ryan Whitlock to shove it into turn 7. Not quite there. Burton gets the power down and holds the spot.
2x2 further back there before we got into the fountain section, but here comes Ryan Whitlock. Great start for the 81, gained 2 positions on that opening lap as we go back over the bridge. Alif already putting a healthy spacing on Cale Davidson, but Clint Halterman follows Burton, Whitlock, Keegan Kallick, and others as we finally come across the stripe in green flag racing for the first time. Purple lap goes to Muhammad Alif.
And that should be no surprise. He's got himself clean air and good track position with no one in front of him to worry about. I think track position today is going to be absolutely key. You want to get all you can get on these restarts, as there was a little bit of an incident farther back with Esteban Munoz, if we can take a look at that. But this riding on board with Ryan Whitlock, you can see just how bumpy it is. Here's what happens with Munoz. He's going to get really hot to turn 1 and just nail the tire barriers. Luckily,
Lock the rears up, I think. Got it wrong on brake balance and just locked the rears up.
That is so easy to do.
The inside from Ryan Whitlock. Gets around the outside, takes that final spot of the podium. Or excuse me, no, 3-car battle. This is a little bit further back. So Wyatt Burton now in 5th. Whitlock in 2nd. Around trouble. Oh my goodness. Just now is broadside in trouble for Mr. Excitement. Oh my goodness.
Minimal damage for the 26 car. Does get a little bit of bend on the front wing, but somehow mostly saves it. Gets on the throttle, I think a little too hard over the bumps, upsets the car. But he is going to plummet in the running order. Looks like he's dropped all the way back to 17.
21st is the answer now for Wyatt Burton side by side. Further back here, I want to say that's Aiken Lamar. He's trying to work around the outside here. Now tries the over-under as they head back onto Lakeshore.
Lamar started this race. Sorry, go ahead.
No, clears Ricky Paz, another car nearly sailing off into that tire barrier as they work kind of down the foxhole there through 3, 4, and 5. Back onto Columbus now. One of the Ball State cars battling up further ahead. And the drive back begins for Wyatt Burton. Already gets 2 positions here in half a lap. He's got the pace. We'll see what he can do here.
That's going to be a very interesting drive through the field to pay attention to all the way down. Reminds me a little bit last week, a Leaf with that EOL, where we knew that the 12 car was going to work its way forward. The question was really when and not if. I think Burton is in a very similar spot. He absolutely has top 5 pace, but we'll see how long it takes him to get there. And at this point, 43 laps to go, I think he has enough time to gain a lot of spots, but I don't know if he'll be able to puncture deep into the top 10 without some strategy and maybe another caution.
Andrew Voigt applying the heat early here on Lucas Moody, that red front-winged number 13 machine, and just a little bit ahead of them. The battle from Watkins Glen between Jake Cummins and Ben Fiore has picked up right where they left off last week. So, a couple of duels here early on in the Windy City. And you talk about teamwork and not making moves that sacrifice your delta. I do say this every week, but especially when it's a place like a street circuit where you don't have anywhere to go, making mistakes like that are amplified to the 10th. So patience is absolutely a virtue here in Grant Park. Purple lap again, by the way, for our Muhammad Alif. Now a 3.5 second gap on Cale Davidson.
And I think now that we've got those initial jitters out of the way, we've got the tires heated up and we've got everyone together. As an issue there with Adrian Tubakovic, Zuhiro Mirza as well involved. But now that we've got those jitters out, that mentality starts to set in, where you can see just how long this race is going to be. Mirza gets very wide going into the fountain section and clipped by another car that may have been Nick Henley.
Tell you what, would love to see that one more time really quick. I think he clips the inside wall. No. Just plows into that outside wall there in turn 8. And that's got to be day done over the bridge here. One of the Ball State cars on the outside. And just plows into it. Oh my goodness.
And that's very easy
on entry.
Do. Very easy to do because there really isn't a brake marker there. You've almost got to guess a little bit at how late you can fling the car to the right to send it around that wall so you can be as wide as possible at the entrance of that wall that curves around the fountain. And yeah, just what you said, Mirza overcooks it just a tad, and most likely day done for the driver of the 24 car.
Ball State 1-2. What a week it has been for Clint Halterman. What a couple of weeks it's been for Clint Halterman. Gets the win at Watkins Glen. Then you rewind just a little bit further, was absolutely flexing along the rest of the alumni at Iowa. How about Ben Fiore has been making a couple moves since the start and has once again ran into Jake Cummins, but has not been able to get that 55 around him just yet. Stood on the podium last weekend with the Ball State guys out at Watkins Glen. What can he do from 8th? Already Jake Cummings starting to build a little bit of a gap here.
And these are two
plenty
drivers.
Of racing, just a 5th into it. Yeah, go on, kid.
These are two drivers who it seems like just have not been able to get away from each other over the course of the season. I think every time I look up, it's the purple car and the red car. A lot of their battles have been inside the top 5. I think great qualifying efforts from Keegan Calick and Dylan Beatty have put them a little bit deeper than they're typically used to running, but these two not really able to get away from each other. They definitely know how they race. I think they know right now that they don't want to push it too hard, but Fiore on the button a little bit to stay in the draft of that 95 car. He's not going to let Cummings get away easily.
And I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are wing to wing here for the next couple of laps, as this was kind of a carbon copy of what we saw at Watkins Glen, just running together for a prolonged period of time. Although I'll tell you what, if Ben Fiore knows he has pace there, would love to see the different tire compounds these guys are running, because Ben Fiore might be getting hot on the color and eager to get some clean air on that front wing of the 55. So who knows? Could turn the wick up in a couple laps time. We shall see. I do want to ask you with those, 2-3 laps under caution, we said at the latest, if you're really, really saving, you could maybe come in at lap 27. I think we can, at this rate now, assume guys can get into the 30s after that prolonged era of yellow flag running.
We're going to take a look at Andrew Burrow here. But yeah, I think if you get on that high fuel map and you're able to get some really, really good saving done, Burrow overcooks it just a little bit, very similar to what we saw with Esteban Munoz, although the consequence is much less dire for Burrow. Looks like he'll be able to drag that. Nope.
No, boy.
No downforce whatsoever. No downforce whatsoever, but as I was saying, yeah, you can definitely save a little bit under caution. We only got about 2 or 3 caution laps, but that's enough to save probably at least 1.5 to 2 green laps. And so if we're talking the top end of the fuel window being anywhere from 27 to 28, you're right. We could see somebody get in a lap 30. The Ball State guys have been very aggressive about fuel saving this season. That's allowed them to maximize or minimize their time on the tire compound that has the best wear. And so if they can get to lap 30, 31, and then have a short stint on the alternates, that's going to put them not only in the prime position with strategy, but right now they've got prime position on track as well.
Cummings continues in lockstep with Ben Fiore. I do want to say, I don't know if we have any Chicago or Illinois-based schools, but for all of our Indy guys, you can kind of almost treat this as a secondary home race to the 500 that we ran, a month and a half ago. I'm trying to think about any of the, don't have any NAU guys or NIU guys. I'm trying to think. I don't think we have any Illinois schools, so we'll just treat this as the second. I don't think we have any of the Purdue guys running tonight, but second home race for the Ball State guys.
Joseph Grzalba, I thought, was in the field. He is from Purdue. That 47 car right now sitting back in the 19th spot, 1 lap down. This is the home race for Andrew Voigt. Voigt is the one sponsoring this race with the
Donkey Sanctuary.
The Donkey Sanctuary, thank you. I couldn't think of the term, but yeah, this was kind of an idea that Andrew Voigt put together. I believe he is from the state of Indiana. And so if I can...
I came strapped on Donkey Facts, by the way, so we're good.
Well, let's hear a couple. I think Voight's got
okay, maybe not facts, but okay. Donkey Sanctuary this race, by the way, is sponsored by our friends at the Donkey Sanctuary. Over the last 50 years, we've grown to be world leaders in donkey welfare. Our mission is to improve the lives of donkeys every day, so we create a world where every donkey has a good quality of life. You can find out more at thedonkeysanctuary.org.uk.
And I'm absolutely dumb and I don't know how to read. It is Andrew McManus, the other Andrew, who is sponsoring this race. Not Andrew Voigt. Sorry, Andrew. McManus was out right away, and Toledo was that school. Andrew McManus sponsoring us with the Donkey Sanctuary. Unfortunately, only made it a couple of turns. Apologize there. I got my Andrews mixed up, but great cause there. Hashtag save the donkeys, and that's what we're trying to do right now. As Muhammad Alif has opened up about a 4-second gap over Cale Davidson, already working through some lap traffic. That's Thomas Crump behind him, quite a few laps down. Now coming up on the damaged car of Adrian Tubakovic.
Do you know that donkeys have object remembrance?
Object permanence, really?
Yeah, I'm reading this here. Able to process the location of an item and remember where it is a short time after they've lost a visual of it.
I think that means there are donkeys out there that are smarter than me, and that's kind of sad.
Probably smarter than me. That was no shots fired intended at Cade Corbin. I was trying to say smarter than me.
No, I'm absolutely... as that's heavy damage to Nick Stockner.
Nick Stockner!
That car was already damaged, and it looks like when he got on the brakes, realized he did not have the downforce to make turn 1 at his normal braking point, and just plowed it. into the outside tire barrier. Another unfortunate end to a week for Nick Stockner. Seems like this man, who's in his last season as the Cup director, just cannot seem to catch a break.
Another replay here, I believe, as we are watching. Here we go, back to it. So 4-car freight train here. Davidson, Halterman, Whitlock, and Clint Halterman. As we just watched the second best running alumni now suffer major issues. You got to look all the way back to 15th now for Aiken Lamar. So Clint Halterman overall on the podium, but in class in a league of his own right now. But Ryan Whitlock in that 81 for UAH wants to stand on the podium once again.
And he's cut down quite a bit of time on Halterman. I think Halterman had about a 1-second gap opened up on him, and Whitlock has driven that down to where he's within a couple of car lengths. Lap car of Thomas Crump lets him go, and Whitlock is kind of able to stay right there looking at the tailpipes of the 100. Hasn't had an opportunity to make a move yet, but if he can outsave the tires a little bit, I think by the time we're getting ready to pit here in about 10 to 12 laps, Whitlock will have the fresher Firestones, and he may be able to make that move and put himself in podium position.
Whitlock slowly reeling in Clint Halterman, and as you mentioned there, Cade, just like any street circuit, the strategy here is paramount, because if you can't pass him on track, you got to find a place where you can pass him off track. Whitlock running a little bit wide there. That's maybe asking a little bit too much from those Firestone Firehawks as he once again plows just a little bit wider there than Clint Halterman. God, that middle section with the that turn 7-8 is so scary for these cars. Just a not necessarily a blind chuck in, but for sure a moment of faith in the grip and the downforce, and making sure that that car is going to stay out of that inside retaining wall. But both of these guys, having a very, very heavy understanding of where the limits of their car and knowing, just how far they can push.
And one story I would like to take a look at, keep an update on, is that 26 of Wyatt Burton from Trine University. Right now back up to the 13th position. He's got quite a ways to go before he catches Nick Henley in the 64. And it looks like that car's missing a wing. So Burton has been through it. He was reeling in Henley at a pretty rapid pace, but now he seems to have stabilized, and it's because of that loss of downforce that just kills your race. We saw this at Long Beach, Jackson. You get in the wall just a little bit, it tears the wing off, and it hurts your performance so much. I mean, it's seconds of your lap time that get taken away whenever you lose one of those wings. And so right now, Burton just hanging on for dear life.
And it's brutal at street circuits, especially because when in terms of aero, you're relying on that rear wing when we're at places like Watkins Glen or Spa or Suzuka for that high speed corner downforce to keep that rear end planted. We have that front wing to give you that bite so that you can dig those front wheels in on all of these low speed corners, and that's almost exclusively what Chicago street circuit has to offer. So absolutely brutal sack of performance. Again, the car will still drive relatively aggressive, but again, you're just losing so much bite out of that front end, and it almost feels like you're plowing the car when you're asking it to go around corners.
Burton looks like still able to put up an okay pace, just ahead of Brandon Schulenberger from Wingate, who I believe is making his first road course start of the season. Schulenberger ran a couple of oval races, also typically runs on the NASCAR side of things. Had a little bit more luck in the Cup Series, not so much luck here in the Formula College Series. Although right now sitting in 14th, not a terrible start to the day for Schulenberger.
Tell you what, I think what we just missed on the timing tower there, Ryan Whitlock onto the podium, the UAH guy, managed to pass Clint Halterman.
You're right, he's got it. He was on the button and able to get the move done. I think a little bit of a tire advantage. He talked about it after the Cup race. He had to pass Clint Halterman to get the lead late, and he talked about the way that he did it was actually by saving a little bit of tires, almost taking, kind of that oval mentality where you go and you think, okay, if I'm going to have a long run, I can't push at the beginning. Now, obviously, you don't want to do that all the time in here anyways, the danger of burning too much tire, too much gas, crashing your
Right.
car, but saving it, almost super cautiously, making that your focus rather than actually turning lap time was something that paid off for Whitlock at the end of a long green flag run on Monday. I think here he's on the same compound as Halterman, but he's just done a better job of not sliding the tires. We saw Halterman getting out of turn 7 there. That entire car wiggled, and all that does is put heat in the tires, rubs rubber off of him, just takes grip out of the car. And right now, it's allowed Halterman, it's allowed Whitlock to get away from Halterman by over half a second here in the past lap.
So good running from Ryan Whitlock so far as we complete lap number 20. Getting to the halfway point here. Want to say, by the way, one, what can Whitlock do now that he's got some fresh air on his nose? But number two, Cal Davidson kept it relatively closer to our Muhammad Alif at about 4 seconds. Got a little bit bigger in the past 5 laps or so, but now it started to plateau. And now with Ryan Whitlock clearing Clint Halterman, how much pace does he have left in the 81? Can he get to Davidson? Can he get to Alif?
And this is a strategy that I think we've seen from Al Muhammad Alif before. Build up a really big lead early and then sort of hold off and save your fuel, save your tires. That's really one of the things that makes him so good, is he can go fast, but he can do it while saving his car. He doesn't have to push it to the very limit to get all the lap time that he needs to get to be fast. Because at the end of the day, you really don't have to go as fast as possible. You just have to be faster than the guy in second. And Alif can figure out how to do that while still saving himself a little bit of gas, a little bit of tire that allows him to be good at the end of the run. And also, like we've talked about all day long, maximize which compound you're on. Right now on the primaries, you want to be on that for longer. Okay, I'll run a higher fuel map, I'll save you a lap of gas, and I'll stay on that tire longer. That could be the strategy from Alif. I don't doubt that Davidson and Whitlock have pace, but I do think that Alif has a little left in the tank where if that gap starts to shrink, he may be able to put the pedal down and grow it back open a little bit.
And in one of my favorite quotes from Brian Till about what separates the top guys in not just road course racing, but motorsports in general, is what separates a top caliber driver, or Muhammad Alif, from the rest, is guys who are able to get 100% out of their car while still using 80% of their brain power. And then that 20%, as you mentioned there, Cade, can go towards, strategy, towards understanding where you can maybe back up to conserve, when you want to pit, what you like about your setup and what you maybe want changed. So using that extra 20% efficiently in your brain and making the most out of what's left is absolutely an extra. Because again, a lot of these guys can run at the exact same, single lap pace or within the same real estate of speed. But I think the difference here for our Muhammad Alif is, he's able to have a little bit of extra memory saved, a little bit of extra GPU saved in the noggin when it comes to, everything else.
We see working through some lap traffic here. Good job getting out of the way by those guys. Ryan Whitlock, I think he's a guy that really shows that it's also experience is something that allows you to free up a little bit of that brain power space. Just taking a look here, incident with the number 9 of Andrew Voigt.
Ooh, damage for Andrew Voigt, yeah.
Already got the wing torn off, and he's gone ahead and decided to pit that car. And there's where the damage occurred. This is turn 1. Same
Turn 1
spot
again?
as Stockner and Munoz, yeah. Looks very identical to all the previous incidents that we've seen, just locking it up, getting in hot, and unfortunately knocking a major component off of the body of that car. So Voigt sits in the pits, not from Indiana, Voigt from Penn State. It's Andrew McManus from the University of Toledo who is sponsoring us today for the Windy City Donkey Dash Grand Prix. Unfortunately, McManus out of the race as well. So not a good day to be named Andrew.
No.
Unfortunately, damage to both of them. But as I was saying, another thing that allows you to free up a little bit of that brain power to think about things like strategy and saving fuel and setup is experience. If you don't have to super consciously go in and super meticulously put yourself in the right spot every corner because you can almost do it on an autopilot, that is something that absolutely plays into being able to find those tenths on pit lane or on the long run. And the more that you turn laps, the more you can do that. And that's why these triple-digit alumni drivers, the drivers with the triple-digit numbers, that's what typically will push them towards the front of the field. Guys like Clint Halterman, it's a little bit of lock up there from Jake Cummings, but Halterman, Aiken Lamar's had a really good season. Typically, Drew Williams he's been having good runs lately. That's what pushes them forwards, is having that experience and having that brain power free. A little bit of lock up there in front of them. Nobody involved in that
traffic in front, maybe. I'm not sure if that didn't look like Jake Cummings. I'm not sure.
I believe that's Kubakovic in front of him that locked it up and then got out of the way down the front straightaway. Fiore, a little bit of a late look, but he is all over the bumper of Jake Cummings. This is the battle for 7th.
I think as we get closer to this pit window, we see guys start to amplify that pace, amplify that aggression, and Lucas Moody in the rear view mirrors of Ben Fiore, slowly starting to reel these two guys in. So it will be interesting to see what the reaction is between these two. I feel like these two have been on autopilot for the first half of this race, saying, hey, wake me up when we have to pit, and then I have to turn up the wick. Fiore with another cell there, having a little bit of a look inside on turn 6. Another really tough area here, just coming over the bridge. You're asking so much from the front wheels. They're going downhill. And I think the issue with turn 1, we'll probably see it again. I think guys are just getting off of the brakes too quickly. And I know that sounds dumb, but for all the GT drivers in chat, you know what that's like for not trail braking, instantly getting off the anchors, because with the way the weight transfers, you're putting all of that weight from the front of the car straight to the back of the car. And all that does is overwhelm those rear tires and spin it around. So we've seen guys mess up their balance and put too much pressure on the rears. And we've seen guys just dump the entire weight of the car on the rears. And I think it's just a combination of, it's a really, really tight corner, both in terms of, how both angle and walls. But I think it's just incredibly, incredibly bumpy. You're asking the absolute maximum from these cars. So definitely a major thing to look out for here as we continue to see guys turn up the pace. Ben Fiore still looking for a way around Lucas Moody. Now to the outside, not Lucas Moody, excuse me, around Jake Cummins. Lucas Moody slowly closing in behind as we are now officially halfway home. As Kel Davidson, Bryant Whitlock, and Clint Halterman all come to pit lane right at the halfway point. Trouble.
Oh, no.
As I say that, though, for Clint Halterman. Oh, my goodness. What did I say? Down the hill on the binders and just gets a little bit too much. Locks it up, sails into that outside wall in turn number 7. And knocks off a chunk of that front wing.
And that was the right front tire that he locked up. Tells me he's got a little bit too much front brake in it and got a little too aggressive braking on hot tires. Halterman pitting in right around the pit window, so he's not going to lose time with an additional pit stop. But to take the repairs, it's going to completely knock him out of contention. Davidson on pit road, Whitlock, all these guys already off pit road now. This seemed like the ideal. They're going to go for a little bit of an undercut as Nick Henley loops it around in turn 11.
No.
And nobody was coming, so he was able to do a little 3-point turn.
Broadside in turn 11. Yeah, not where you want to be at all, especially if you've got cars coming. Over to Muhammad Alif, who takes his service now from the lead. And yeah, I mean, that's a mandatory thing that the 100 has to go and fix. That's not something like a tires out of alignment and the wheels just a little bit knocked to the side. That's genuine performance affection. Sometimes you have those maybe decisions when you're coming into pit lane of do I deal with the suckiness here and just ride it out for the remainder of the race? Or do I, take that little extra time in the pit lane and have that taken care of so I've got a, good as new car here when I'm going back out? when it comes to the front wing. You've heard us talk about it enough. That's an absolute gimme. So something that obviously has to be dealt with, but timing came pretty dang good. Still didn't come in the box. Very, very lucky that didn't happen when he just came out of the box. So was able to kind of kill two birds with one stone there.
That is going to drop Halterman outside of the top 15, which is incredibly disappointing when he started this race in second and ran most of the day in podium position. As something I believe has happened to the 95 of Jake Cummings. I think he made a second pit stop. So not sure what the story is there on the Converse University driver. A couple guys pitted a lap. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Spins and nearly collects Lucas Moody. Does a little 5-point turn to get himself. Let's see how this one got started. Looks like he's going to pit right in front of Ben Fiore. Not sure if Fiore knew that he was coming in or not. Looks to me like
that's contact for sure.
May have been contact.
Again, it's such a tough, there's no pit entry line. It is just the hole's open and you go through. I mean, Fiore's trying to maximize his exit. It's not necessarily his responsibility, but man, I want to say that's almost a penalty then. God, yeah, that might be a penalty for Jake Cummings for speeding on pit lane entry, but Ben Fiore absolutely serving a penalty of his own there as he has front wing damage. As both drivers now back out in the race.
And I have to imagine that Jake's got to be a little frustrated with himself about that one. He was taking a very wide arc onto pit entry as we see Lucas Moody grab the wall just a little bit in turn 4. But I think Jake was taking a really, really wide arc. Fiore saw that, and I think on corner exit decided to commit to the throttle thinking, hey, Cummings, there's no way he's pitting. He's gone too wide. Right. He's not coming in this lap. Cummings tries to cut that car back to the right. Fiore's already in the gas. And that's contact there. Oh, no.
Brandon Schulenberger.
Wingate capitalized on staying out of trouble early to get up into the top 10. And right there, clobbers the wall on the exit of that very, very tight foxhole section. We're going to wind it all the way back. This is heading into the kink.
I would guess maybe locking up that outside left coming into the foxhole. I take Venmo.
Gets in there way too hot and unfortunately pays the price with it. That's going to drop Schulenberger outside of the top 10 as Jake Cummings still on pit road. Don't know if any of the damage was terminal for that 95, but he has decided to slot himself back in his pit box, working on that machine. Didn't see super heavy contact. The damage very evident on the 55, ripping the front wing off. Now taking a look at Adrian Tubakovic from St. Clair College.
Oh,
exact
man.
Same spot as Schulenberger.
Instantly gets it out of there. Smart to not try and refire it. That's a scary place. That's a fast place. And guys aren't going to know if you're broadside until they're literally just coming around there. So obviously a rough decision made by Adrian there, but good for him to hit the quick toe there and get that back into pit lane as Ryan Whitlock continues on the charge here to try and get to Cale Davidson. I want to talk about a big winner here in this pit cycle, though. Lucas Moody, who saw that battle with Jake Cummings, Ben Fiore, and just laid back, got out the popcorn, let those two kind of make their own mistakes, saved tires in doing so and not making it a 3-car battle. He takes 2 positions as a result, up into 6th now.
Another guy who was a little bit of a winner from that was Keegan Calick. Didn't really gain any spots, but he didn't lose any, and that really seems to be the name of the game at these road courses, street courses in particular. Calick has done a really good job of that all season, having a fantastic rookie year for St. Clair College. Right now, that is Dylan Beatty immediately behind him, battling hard for the 4th spot. Have not been able to let each other go all race, the 29 and the 20. But both of these drivers, again, great qualifying efforts. It's great for them to be running inside the top 5. Really fantastic stuff for the driver from St. Clair and the driver from Ball State.
been together position-wise, but just now Dylan Beatty gets that number 20 machine in guns range to try and clear Keegan Calick. Good run here going into the foxhole. We'll take a look to the outside. This is bold stuff if he can hang it all the way around the outside. The bumpiest, least grippy part of the racetrack. But in a nuclear move, Dylan Beatty hangs it all the way around the outside and clears Keegan Calick for 4th.
And that was an incredible move. The outside of turn 4, Jackson. Have you ever seen that one?
It's a scary, there's no grip there. It's such a tight area of the racetrack. It feels like seemingly anywhere else on the track you can make a move like that done. Maybe not the water fountain, but man, a gutsy move for Dylan Beatty, who had faith in the car, had faith in his downforce, and got it done there with 32 laps in.
I think he was on the button while he was making that pass, too. That is
Probably.
Incredible stuff from Dylan Beatty. Right now, about 15 seconds back of Whitlock, but he has opened up an absolutely massive gap on Keegan Calick, which just shows you how key and around goes Calick. In the 5th spot, he's going to get that car fired back up, and it looks like he won't lose any positions on track, but that's going to heat those tires up, and oh!
I think he knocked the end plate off. Or no, I think that wing's clean off now, Cade. Oh my goodness. Some damage either to that. I think it might be the back end plate or something. Clearly something fell off of the 29. I'm not entirely sure where. But oh my goodness, now Lucas Moody incites Ricky Paz way back there in the 19. Has managed to keep it going, and damage is pretty minimal from what I can see. As here is Ricky Paz.
I'd be willing to bet on that 29 car. There's a little bit of damage that we can't see. We saw that with Jake Cummings last week at Watkins Glen. A little bit of suspension damage, underbody damage, something. Very interested to see how this 29 car is going to continue to drive. Thought that he had the lap car of Jason Wallet washing up on him on corner exit. Tried to give him a little bit too much room at a very narrow portion of the racetrack. And unfortunately, Calick saves it from a spin and then damages the car. And he'll try now to stop from falling into the clutches of Lucas Moody. That is a battle for the top 5 spot, so absolutely no reason to give up. But Keegan Calick, man, his day went from bad to worse in the span of about 2 corners.
The yips of driving is absolutely a real thing. You make a mistake, you lose a position, and you're beating yourself up. You're questioning your own abilities, and you're so busy. Again, you've got to give 100%. You've got to give everything mentally possible to staying out on track and keeping yourself out of trouble. And the minute you get something else in there to break your focus, whether it's losing a position, making a mistake, questioning strategy, you know, those mistakes can come pretty dang easy. And again, maybe it's just Calick getting hot on the collar and wanting to swing back and overdriving the car. But again, that's exactly what Lucas Beatty wants, is that instantly takes the drama out from him. But now Lucas Moody slowly starting to close in now on Calick, who I think might have a little bit of damage, something maybe we can't see, Cade.
And that honestly looked very, very familiar. If I can take it back to my own Monday race, I started in 29th, tried to drive a clean race, stay out of trouble. As soon as that spotter gets in my ear and says, hey, we've cracked the top 10, I look down to my relative, realize that I'm in 8th, and what do you know, fire it off into turn 1, get on the gas a little bit too soon, and that car goes around. And you know who was right there to get caught up in it? Was that same 76 of Jason Wallen. So,
oh my goodness.
It looked very, very familiar. I know exactly what Calick is thinking right now. And now he's got the 13 of Lucas Moody bearing down on him. This is one of those moments, you know, I don't want to say that it's a rookie mistake, but it's a rookie mistake. The more that you do this, the easier it gets to shake off those things. It's like, all right, turn 1, we blew it, we spun it. Let's lock it back down. He's got a little bit of contact there.
Moody gets on the...
get in his own head.
Yep. Moody now maybe getting a little mental as well, as he's trying to close that gap in the 13. Had it a little bit too much of the right foot there and just nudged that back left into the wall. Damage seems to be minimal. Nearly does it again, though, as they work back onto Columbus. Lap number 34 in the books here. 15 laps left for Lucas Moody to crack into the top 5. He's got to clear the slightly maimed Keegan Kallick to do so, and he's looking strong here as they work their way back down into the foxhole. Little bit of a look to the inside. Kallick isn't selling it. Big wiggle there when Moody lets off the brakes, but now gets back onto the loud pedal, back onto Columbus towards that kind of double corner. What's turn 1 and effectively turn 6, sharing that same little city block here. And I think if I am Keegan Kallick, I'm just trying to stop the bleeding and minimize damage. If he gets side by side, I don't think I'm necessarily going to go totally fangs out. But we'll see as Moody continues to slowly but surely reel him in. Another little bit of a love tap with the wall there, heading back over the bridge. Lap 36 about to be in the books for these two. Both just kicking the rear out slightly. Watch that push to pass on the left. Sorry, as Moody looks to the outside, but goes for the block. Here he comes to the inside.
I was just going to say Moody needs to find where he's faster, but I think he's found an entrance to turn 1. That was where Kallick lost it last time. Moody takes advantage and gets the pass made on the outside of turn 2. How about that? Lucas Moody gets the power down, launches it off into the foxhole. Kallick grabs the wall, driving a little bit flustered. That gives the spot and a couple of car lengths to Lucas Moody.
And more cracks growing there for Keegan Kallick. Tried to make that 29 as wide as possible, opening the lap, and in doing so actually just opened a unorthodox door, shall we say, for Lucas Moody, who was able to take the long way around in turn number 2 and get himself up into the top 5. And with that still slightly crippled 29 of Kallick, he's not able to give too much of a fight. He's stayed relatively close right now, but we'll need a big moment here from either of these drivers to get into it once again with 13 laps on the clock. Again, pay close attention to those sort of blue arrows on our timing screen on the left-hand side to show us when we're on push to pass, when we're opening up that restrictor in our turbocharger and giving about 50 or so extra horsepower into these turbocharged V6s. Given about 2 minutes a race for when you can do so. A lot of guys, again, due to the name, will use it as a aid and overtake, but a lot of these guys will use it in another kind of strategic way, as Brandon Schullenberger back out in 18th to the middle of the track. I think he brushed it just a smidge earlier. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, this was
maybe got tangled with someone else.
This was deemed as an unsafe exit from the pit lane. Sorry, Jackson, but Brandon comes very close. I believe that's the 45 of Grant Schilling. Tags the outside. You can see the front wing there already knocked off. Ooh, outside wall as well for the 7. A bad day going much worse, as unfortunately Brandon Schulenberger black flagged after getting involved in a couple of incidents. So troubles earlier for Clint Halterman means that Aiken Lamar is now your top dog in the alumni's. And how about this? Wyatt Burton continuing that comeback drive, getting himself into the top 10. Currently running 9th, chasing down this man on screen right now, the 64 of Nick Henley. And that's something that Aiken Lamar has done all season. He's kept his car clean. There's Burton in 9th. Just behind him, the 094 from Howard Community College in the 10th position. He's Lamar, that is, keeps his car clean, doesn't really do much damage, but then by the end of the race, it shows up and he finds himself in the top 10. 6 top 10s on the season, currently 8th in points, and he's done that on the consistency of staying out of trouble. And it looks like we could be in a position, you mentioned it a little bit, Aiken Lamar, your leading alumni driver. That would be the first time that that's happened all season, which would mean the first time that we get to talk to Aiken Lamar after the race all season. Halterman way back now, 5 laps down in the same kind of rut as Thomas Crump, who was part of that major lap 1, turn 1 incident. Wyatt Burton with a big dosage of understeer there, nearly gets it into the wall, but carries on, keeps trying to reel in Nick Henley.
As man, that car is jumping. Working its way back over to the bridge. There's the 094. Cardinal and Gold Machine, the 094 of Aiken Lamar, just behind. Grant Schiller in the 45 has managed to keep that going again. We've seen little netcode issues sometimes where the front wing seemingly disappears and then pops back up. Netcode kind of has a switcheroo on whether or not the driver deserves to have it or not, and I think that's what we might have seen with Schiller, who was the other car involved. Jason Wallet, I just think, has seen a lot of other guys do a lot of interesting things. Battle on track here. Joseph Grzelva not giving too much of a fight. I'm not sure if he's lap traffic. He might be.
He is. Joseph Grzelva right now 3 laps down, just giving way. I believe that was for Keegan Cowlick or Ricky Paz, one of the black cars. But Joseph Grzelva involved in something earlier, the Boilermaker, back in the 13th spot. There's Ricky Paz. Got to give a shout-out to Ricky Paz.
Always give a shout-out to Ricky Paz.
This series, absolutely. He's helped us out up in the booth here a little bit. He's done a lot of work behind the scenes. And Ricky Paz right now sitting in the 7th position. We remember how excited he was to get a podium at Iowa. I think for him, a top 10 and a clean top 10 at a road course would almost be just as huge. He, along with Nick Stockner, has had absolutely abysmal luck. Just can't seem to find a way to finish one of these things. If Paz can hang on for 9 more laps, he'll get one of his best results of the season at one of the trickiest tracks of the season. And if he can do it while finishing on the lead lap, I believe that's Muhammad Alif just behind him. So not sure if he'll do that, but still very close to on the lead lap. Very good run. Props to the number 19 from ECU, Ricky Paz.
Only 7 cars on the lead lap here as Ricky Paz goes a little bit late on the anchors there. He won't call himself a road racing guy, and he'll say he's only good at the ovals, but I will always call BS on that because he always finds his way into the top 10 no matter what he's driving if he's forced to turn right. But again, as you mentioned, Kate, it just feels like luck has not gone his way, at least in this opening half of this season. But he has ended so strong, whether it was Iowa or, again, was even flexing that muscle a little bit, but again, got caught up at Watkins Glen. So it will be interesting to see what he can do. I believe that's... No, that's not... Oh, yes, it is. Jake Cummings just behind there, who was involved in that incident earlier on with Ben Fiore. Couple of laps down now. Running in 17th, Fiore having to repair his car as well as a result, but runs up in 14th, just up the road as a result now.
It's a very interesting group of cars. You've got Cummings, who's 5-6 laps down, then Muhammad Alif, your race leader, and then Ricky Paz. And what's interesting is the 12 and the 95, definitely both faster than the 19, but none of these battles are for position, so these guys should be pretty smart. Work towards the end of the race. They should sort it out. Cummings is going to back it off and let him go, and hopefully by the time he catches them, they'll be single file. Here's Nick Henley in the 8th spot for Ball State, one of his best runs of the season.
Yeah, this is something he's absolutely going to be proud of, is Ball State having, 3 of their cars in the top 10 right now? 1, 2 with Kale and Muhammad, so... Really good stuff so far, as is always from Ball State. With 7 laps to go here for Nick Henley. Was talking about potentially Wyatt Burton reeling him in there in the 26. Kind of stayed within the same distance here. There's Mr. Excitement.
It is going to be a very interesting battle to watch as we finish out the race. Burton, I believe, throughout the course of this race has had the pace, but having to take the time to get that damage repaired. You see they put the front wing back on the 26 car. I might be able to get to the 64. He's got 7 laps or so. This is a battle for position, the battle for 8th. Let's take a look at the chat. We can see these shout-outs there. Keep moving up, Wyatt. Keep advancing. He's made it up to the 9th spot. 8th is in reach. I don't know about 7th, but still a somewhat decent recovery for Wyatt Burton after an early spin and accident. Unfortunately, not the points day that he wanted. He'll be pretty far outside of the championship going into Michigan, but still getting a top 10 out of this day. Sometimes all you can do. Not much to hang your head over for Wyatt Burton outside of just that one mistake.
Yep, got to have another look at the standings here. But those morsels of points all at play still here, which is why Wyatt Burton is going to want to make quick work of Nick Henley here. Haven't seen a lot of him getting on the button yet to at least close that gap. That's another thing you kind of want to mention because, yes, using push to pass to clear a guy is one thing, but getting to the bumper of him, getting within drafting range is another. That's another way you can use push to pass. There's a lot of different ways you can use speed. Pretty much the only way you can't is saving fuel, which is why in the longer fuel saving races, we'll see guys maybe stay off it. But Wyatt Burton still playing the patient game. 5 laps and change on the clock here. I think he's driving like he knows this is probably the only position he's going to be able to grab. So biding his time slowly but surely, reeling in the Ball State machine of Nick Henley.
It looks like he got a pretty good run on Henley there. Another thing he is going to want to keep in the back of his mind is that there are cars that he could pass that aren't in his field of view right now. If any of the top 7 crash out, Burton could get those spots, but he will only get those spots if he is still on track. You see Henley breaking the draft down the straightaway, jerking that car to the left, now getting a run out of turn 2, trying to do everything he can to keep Burton at bay. But the 26 for Trine University is there. He's going to look to the outside. This is that same move we saw from Dylan Beatty earlier, but Burton decided not to commit to it. And for the moment, sticks it in 9th, but he's got 5 more laps to try something.
Pump the brakes because we just saw Moody clear Dylan Beatty, by the way. We might need to go find a replay of that. But this battle is absolutely getting...
Oh, no.
Oh, trouble for Dylan Beatty! Oh, my goodness, no! After having such a commanding drive earlier on today, I think in the exact same spot where he got the move done, just overcooked it and might have just clipped the nose of that car into the tire barrier. There it is. Oh, and suspension damage as well. Heartbreak for the 20 of Dylan Beatty.
That's turn 3 taketh and turn 3 giveth. That time it decided to take, and unfortunately that's going to take Dylan Beatty outside of the top 5, and this is exactly what I talked about. This is a spot that Nick Henley and Wyatt Burton can both gain if they can keep their cars on track. Watching Beatty try to limp it around, it looks like not too significant damage, at least at this point in the replay. So possibly somewhere else he's going to let Moody have the spot, try to limp this car around, but now it's on the table that Keegan Calick and Ricky Paz, maybe Burton Henley and Lamar could all get up there and pass this 20 car.
Yep. Want to really quickly thank our sponsors one more time here before we see the checkered flag. Our friends at the Donkey Sanctuary for sponsoring the Donkey Dash Grand Prix here in the Windy City. With 16 different donkeys you can adopt for about $3 a month. You can learn more at thedonkeysanctuary.org.uk/adopt or just thedonkeysanctuary.org.uk to help. And again, thank you to the Donkey Sanctuary for sponsoring us and keeping the lights on here on the Collegiate iRacing League. Keegan Calick in 29th gets a freebie there with the trouble for Dylan Beatty as he now comes to pit row. I say that, it looks like my timing is telling us he's actually kept it going, but we'll slowly be reeling him in. There he is now, coming over the bridge.
And guys, Wyatt Burton has got around Nick Henley.
There it is. So the move we were expecting all along has actually come. I'm curious if we can get a replay of that. There he is now. So that's Ryan Whitlock, I think, getting around them. Working back down the foxhole. It might have been where he got it done.
And I see the 2 car of Cale Davidson. Not sure if that lead lap car somehow played into it.
It's possible here. So it was before Columbia. I think it was going into the foxhole. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it looks like
exact same as how he defended earlier, yeah.
And that's Burton. He's going to dive it down into turn 1, then decide to back it off just a little bit, but get a great run out of the corner, side by side into turn number 2, and he's able to stick on the left rear. Henley isn't able to exit can't get the power down. Now here comes Davidson, and Henley, teammate to that 2 car, I believe was pretty quick to want to get out of the way of Cale Davidson. Burton able to just drive away from it. Now another Ball State car, Dylan Beatty in the pits. I think he was trying to limp it around as long as he could, but he was losing too much time. So that moves Wyatt Burton up to 7th, Nick Henley up to the 8th spot, and that might give 9th to Aiken Lamar here. A little bit of a late race shakeup with just 2 laps to go.
Interesting how that inside line is actually suboptimal for defense going there through turn number 2. Your brain thinks that they'll be slower in forcing them the long way around, but it really doesn't. And that's the second time today where through turn number 2, someone's carried that momentum off of turn 1 and ran it all the way to the outside to get a move. So some really, really good driving there from Wyatt Burton. He's got Ricky Paz up next on the menu here, but with 2 laps to go, I don't think he's going to get there. Still absolutely an incredible drive from Mr. Excitement. Goes practically from last in the field to 7th. So good stuff there from number 26.
And what's going to soften the blow a little bit is the bad day that Jake Cummings has had. Those two battling in the points right now, not necessarily for the championship, but for each other and to stay within reach of a podium. So the fact that Cummings has dropped out of this race, or at least dropped quite a few laps back, is going to be good news for the driver of the 26. Another driver who's going to capitalize from that is the 81 of Ryan Whitlock. Whitlock has been gobbling up points as of late, and he's going to try to jump his way up into the top 5 in the standings as well. All those guys able to capitalize by just staying out of trouble. We knew it was going to be an attrition race coming in, but at the end of the day, it came down to car control, pace, and good strategy. Muhammad Alif is going to take the white flag with just about a 12-second gap over that man, Cale Davidson. White flag is in the air. 1 lap to go in the Windy City Donkey Dash Grand Prix, brought to you by Andrew McManus.
Muhammad Alif, expect anything different than number 12 with nearly 32 seconds up over Ball State teammate Cale Davidson, and Ryan Whitlock nowhere in sight as well, as it has been nothing but domination all season long for the number 12. And the perfect winning streak with just a couple corners to go here will continue for the Ball State driver. A little bit of lap traffic in front, but if you can just keep it clean a couple more corners, it'll be 2 in a row here at Chicago for Muhammad Alif. Cale Davidson and Ryan Whitlock throwing everything they can. An impressive drive. Same 2 for Lucas Moody, who improves up into 4th. Aiken Lamar will be the top alumni here, beating out the 100 of Clint Halterman, but it's all about Muhammad Alif. Twin checkers are out, and Muhammad Alif will take the Donkey Dash here in the Windy City Grand Prix. Cale Davidson to the line will bring it home in 2nd, gets the number 2 and P2. Ryan Whitlock on the hard charge forward. He'll get the number 81 as he comes out of the final corner back onto Columbus. For UAH, Ryan Whitlock will stand back on the podium once again.
That may have been, was that a little bit of a crash there out of Aiken Lamar?
A little bit of a bobble there maybe for Aiken Lamar, yep.
Late race jitters, but he should hang on to the 9th spot. Looks like Moody and Cowlick going to round out the top 5, and that also rounds out your lead lap cars. Just 5 cars on the same lap as Alif to end this one. An absolute stomping after we ran the last 47 laps green. But with that, the race is done, and Muhammad Alif is going to be able to say that he is the one and only driver to win a Donkey Dash. How about that?
There we go. I need to get some donkey facts for the guys when we get them up in the booth. Hey, I really said that was going to be a crazy, chaotic race, but honestly, all things considered, pretty tame. Genuinely pretty tame. Really, really clean driving from a lot of the guys. I feel like a lot of the incidents weren't necessarily guys throwing Hail Marys or trying to get stuff done, but a lot of self-induced incidents. And I think what actually impressed me the most was the fact that a lot of these guys just we're able to we're just able to we're just able to collect it by themselves and not get anyone else in the process there. So incredibly interesting there. We will see, though. Going to be interesting to hear from the top three, because a relatively boring race in the top three. We shall see.
I think overall that's pretty much on par for a little bit what we've seen thus far with the street courses. Certainly no lack of attrition, no lack of calamity that could have happened. I think there was a lot of moments where just about anything could have and did go wrong. We saw guys spinning coming off pit road, accidents coming off of pit road, but the incidents themselves, I think, were a little bit sparser than they maybe have been in the past. And to be honest with you, that's a good thing. We don't want to see a race where we've got 20 cars bended in the wall. So I think, honestly, huge shout out to the entire field for being able to run most of this race green. We had a lot of guys not finish on the lead lap, but we had a lot of guys that were able to limp damaged cars home. Don't interfere with the lead lap cars. And so I think that's just a huge shout out to the league and guys being able to, kind of put their own lap time aside and just go out, run a good race, get a good result. And it paid off big dividends for some guys. Keegan Kallick, after everything that we saw happen to that car, he was finally able to shake the jitters, put his head down, bring home a top 5. Aiken Lamar gets 9th. Some really good stories there, just inside the top 10, just outside the top 10. So overall, really good stuff. Unfortunately, that is the last street course race of the season. I've started to like these street courses. I wasn't big on street courses at the beginning of the season, but after seeing 2 or 3 good ones here this year in the Formula College World Championship, I've become a little bit of a fan.
I'm biased because I've grown up 30 minutes from Long Beach every single, and I've gone every single year since 2014. But no, absolutely love my street racing. Very, very cool to see that IndyCar Long Beach combo now, and so cool to see Formula College go and run this over the past couple of seasons. So I think Chicago might be a combo that's a little bit too hectic for me. Maybe a little bit too intense for the Indy cars, but still some really, really good racing from these guys, some really respectful racing from these guys. And, I think some guys did have a chance against Muhammad Alif, but I think in order to bring that fight, it would have had to happen in the first corner. And I think things would have been very, very different there if we stayed green for even a couple more corners.
Yeah, just being able to get that track position and potentially hang on to it or have an opportunity to make a move on cold tires. The more pace laps that you get, the more that heat cycle goes in, the more you're able to swerve and try to build heat. And so combine that with a single file restart, and it was a recipe for those top 2 to run away. But just because they had that opportunity didn't guarantee it. Those 2 drivers still ran a very clean and very efficient 50 laps. I mean, at the very beginning, Davidson had to wrestle second away from Halterman. And once he got it, he had to put on a fantastic drive to not look back and to not give that spot back up. And really, between those 2 Ball State cars, we didn't see him put a wheel wrong. We didn't see him get in the wall. No. We didn't see him overcook a corner. And so that precision, not quite pushing it, to me, I think that's what really won them the race, because they were presented with the opportunity to actually go in and take it. That's where they were able to capitalize.
No, 100%. And looking further back in the field, we got to see if we have any, conversations develop here. Again, it's going to take a while for the dust to settle in terms of penalty and how things are sorted out. But, you look back at the tussle some of these guys had further in the field. I mean, instantly you got to think about Burton at the start, and how different things could have been there. I think we were having a really, really good battle there between Jake Cummins and some of the Ball State guys. But obviously that entrance on the pits is what really, really ended both of their days. I'm not sure if there's maybe a beef developing there between those 2, because it feels impossible to even keep those 2 apart. We'll have to ask those guys later, because we've got a couple of really, really happy guys here getting ready to share some words with us.
Let's go ahead and start with the top rung of the podium. We'll bring in Muhammad Alif, Mr. Muhammad Alif, for the 6th time this season. You got us?
Hello.
Hi.
There he is. Well, congratulations once again on the win. We knew that you were going to be a guy to watch. Was there anything different about this one, being such a tight course and such a bumpy course? That's something that's honestly pretty unique.
Yeah, I mean, street tracks are great. They're just very, very tricky. 1 millisecond of lapse of concentration, you're in the wall. So that kind of pushes you to the limit. Especially for me because I was just pushing the entire way just because it was a clear one stop. So might as well just push all the way and yeah, get the 1-2.
I gotta ask, was there anything a little bit different about the approach to this one, knowing what happened at Long Beach and knowing that you've got a little bit of a chaotic race coming up next week as Michigan? Was there anything about that in the back of your mind when you were preparing for this race?
Not really. I mean, just dominate. That was the main thing. Get all the bonus points as I can. Don't try not to get into any sort of trouble so that no one can just protest me and I don't get banned to oblivion. So that's been the theme of this year for all of us here at Ball State. So yeah, I was just trying to be as spotless as I can without doing anything. So yeah, that was the.
Well, it's great to see you back in Ball State colors. I did like the highlighter yellow scheme with the penalty reports on it. That was fun. That was cool. But good to see the red and white back out on track, back leading the race. Did you 0x that race? It seemed pretty clean.
Yeah, 0x. No contacts at all, which is pretty cool. So yeah, 0x. No contact. Should be an extra bonus point there, I believe. So yeah.
Well, maximizing points. Congratulations once again to Muhammad Alif. Before we let you go, anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, my teammates here at Ball State. Huge shout out to the stewards as well for this year. Shout out to the directors here at Ball State, PK and Dan, the whole Ball State, and yeah, for you guys for I think main thing for you guys for hosting this. So yeah, thank you.
Well, it is our pleasure. Thanks for putting on a show, and we'll see you next week as we stay in the Midwest and head to Michigan.
See you guys.
That is Muhammad Alif, and now Jackson gonna stand by with Cale Davidson.
Dale Davidson, it's Lax and Jambros in the Bomentary Couth. You got me?
I got you.
Hey, really, really good driving from you today. Ball State 1-2. Let's start with this. Absolute dominance after, obviously not the way you guys wanted to wrap up at Watkins. How does it feel to be back at the front?
Absolutely. It definitely feels good to be back at the front. Watkins definitely sucked, but with the power outage and that ending the way it did, it kind of just switched the mindset straight to, well, let's focus on Chicago Street in the next 3 races and just try to close out the championship as strong as we can.
I know the last thing you want to do is get tangled with your teammate in Muhammad Alif. Is there anything differently you would have done, though, to maybe bring the fight and try and challenge for the win?
Yeah, so I was feeling a bit more racy towards the start of this race, and I had been pretty consistent just throughout. But then after that restart, when I almost put myself into the wall, I locked up the left front, I almost rear-ended a leaf there. I really just had to take a step back and just focus on. I was like, it's lap 4. Like I gotta finish out the race. So I did have good pace, and I wanted to, but with how tight and bumpy the street course is, and kind of like what you were saying with Watkins Glen not ending the way it wanted. Really just wanted a good points finish and just wanted to finish the race in one piece.
Am I allowed to ask the incident count for you tonight, good sir?
Yeah, so it was actually 4x. I was talking to
That's
Ryan.
not too bad.
I was
We'll
talking
take
to
it.
Ryan during the race, and both of them were 2x's from smacking the wall really hard, and I ended up with no.
Oh man.
And
Oh, there
so
we go.
I'm very grateful for that. But one was coming out of pit lane, and I hit the tire barrier there, and then on the wall in 4 and 5, I went straight into it in front of Wyatt Burton, and I was like, Burton, you can just have the spot. I'm not pushing.
The right people here looking out for Cale Davidson. Cale, really, really great drive. Any shout outs here before we let you go?
Yeah, want to shout out my teammates. So it almost was a Ball State 1, 2, 3, 4, but it was a good run from them. So Lucas, Alif, Dylan, Nick, Jake, everyone. And then shout out to Ryan. We were having fun kind of messing with each other in the call. We were trying to distract each other with different questions. Then shout out our esports directors, Stan and BK, for making this possible. And then shout out my mom, my dad, and my grandpa.
Back on the big tracks next weekend, last oval with Michigan. Really, really good drive from you, Cale. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Ball State's Cale Davidson will get third place in just a moment. A very cool interview from two Huntsville guys. Stand by for Ryan Whitlock and Cade Corbin.
Ryan, it's taken us about 11 weeks to get this, but we finally got you up here in the booth. Finally got a chance to talk to you. Congratulations on the podium. I know you wanted 2 spots better. I know you wanted the sweep, but talk to me about that race.
No, I mean, I think I did the best I could. Like, the qualifying result was not fantastic. Starting, oh geez, where'd I start? Starting 5th. Not ideal, but I mean, other than I think I should have extended my first stint 1 lap longer, I really don't think I put a foot wrong, guys.
Well, that would be poke a little fun at you here. Maybe the first time this season you've been able to stay out of trouble and keep all 4 tires on the ground. But no, really good stuff. A lot of clean racing up at the front. We were joking with this about Cale and Alif. What was your incident count by the end of this one?
Mine was 0. I mean, don't ask me to go back and count how many of those were wall tap zeros. But you know, 0 plus 0 is still 0. So, I think Cale actually managed to get away with 2 X's, so he hit the wall much harder than I ever did, and he got away with it, that lucky son of a gun. But yeah, I mean, you're not making fun of me by saying I haven't been up here and I've always been in trouble. That has just been the story of my season. This is literally the first podium I've gotten since the New Hampshire win, so just happy to be back.
Well, it's great to see you turn it around. Win on Monday, podium on Wednesday, and a championship in the short track series. And then you've got a great race to call tomorrow night at the Nürburgring, I believe. So is this the week that we turn it around?
Sorry to burst your bubble. Nürburgring is next week, or no, actually. Wait, is that 2 weeks?
It is tomorrow, is it not?
No, it's the 17th. Whatever the 17th is. We'll never do STS and Nürburgring in the same week. But yeah, I think this is the turnaround for my FC season. I hope. This will also probably be the last CIL race I ever do on a desk rig. I am picking up an actual rig from somebody tomorrow, so we will see how that transition goes.
Well, there you have it. Just about the entire field has been beat by a guy with a wheel strapped to a desk. Great stuff, Ryan Whitlock from the University of Alabama in Huntsville and for Charger Motorsports. Before I let you go here, Ryan, anybody you want to shout out? Any special team members? Maybe a new team lead you might want to shout out? I don't know.
What, do I want to make that public or not, Cade? Well, you shouted out UAH Motorsports. Yeah, you already shouted out UAH Motorsports for me, but want to shout out you, Cade, taking over the virtual racing team next season. I know that's what you wanted, but yeah, I'll stick around to coach, and you're going to manage a little bit more of the projects. That's going to be good fun. I want to shout out Orange Wheeler Racing as well. Always fun racing with those guys. They never a boring second in a voice call with those hooligans. And also want to shout out Cale. Just a good race. It was fun actually being somewhat around him this time around.
Well, always fun to watch you. Always good to have a good run for that Charger Blue car. Go have yourself a fun night. And yeah, thanks for the interview.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
And that was Ryan Whitlock, 3rd place, like he said, first podium finish for that 81 car since he won all the way back at New Hampshire when our stream crashed. So a little bit of a turnaround for Whitlock. Last guy that we are going to interview tonight is your alumni winner for the first time this season. It is Aiken Lamar from Howard Community College.
14,000 people attend Howard Community College every single year. One of them is very, very good at virtual race cars. Aiken Lamar, your first win of the season here. A quiet one, but a deadly one. Walk me through your race.
So at the beginning, I watched some footage from last year, and they, I can't remember who it was, but they basically did the same thing I did this race, which was just don't push the car at all, just try to get through it. And they got in the top 10. I don't see why I can't do that. I definitely need the points, and I am terrible at this track, so that's what I did. It's not fancy, but it worked. So
we've talked about we've talked about Chicago being this sort of race of survival And I think a lot of the guys maybe took too much of a chunk out of maybe what they were wanting out of the car. So a boring race, but one that ultimately seeped some good rewards for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know that you were not expecting to be sitting here talking to us tonight. Clint Halterman running in third, rolling off the line very, very strong. Any reaction when you saw that he was tangled up in anything?
I actually didn't know he had crashed until a couple minutes ago. When I got called in here, I had just... Yeah, I didn't see
So you
it,
just found out.
I found out when I got summoned, because I was like,
Beautiful.
I'm in third, so... Yeah. Sucks for him. It's never fun to crash out.
No.
Period, so...
Really quick. I mean, obviously you didn't expect to be here, but the good driving discipline has paid off. You don't have any races quite like this for the remainder of the calendar, a major cookie cutter oval, and then a Formula 1 circuit. But how does this help the morale for the remainder of the season?
It gives me a bit more points to play with. I'm trying to cling on to 7th. I don't think that's going to happen, but the goal is the top 8 in the championship overall, and I think that's achievable, especially now. So fingers crossed. Definitely putting in the practice for Brazil and the oval.
You're our last guy in the booth. Any more shout outs here before we set our sights for Michigan?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out my girlfriend. Love you, Cal. Other than that, no. Thank you for HCC. I think they had a great education, especially for community college. But yeah, that's it.
Howard's Aiken Lamar getting his first alumni win of the season. Congrats, Aiken, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
And that, I think, is going to do it for us here, Kate. I mean, a really, really... I don't want to say boring because that's not the right word, but definitely not a race that was nearly as chaotic as I thought it was going to be initially.
No, we were able to keep a lot of cars in the race, definitely some spins, definitely some damage. But like I said earlier, we want to view it as a positive, right? There were definitely some great wheel-to-wheel battles. We saw that great move from Dylan Beatty on the outside, and then maybe tried to see if he could use that to pull a little bit of speed back over Cooks that grabs the wall. So still no shortage of good moments, but, good to have a race that's hopefully not going to have so much post-race drama. Not so much having to paint cars highlight or yellow or a lot of arguments behind the scenes. We want to have a fun league. We want to have good racing, and I think we really put that on here tonight. So let's go ahead and take a look at the final results, the way that this one shook down. This is unofficial, pending a couple of penalties, but for the most part, this is how the field has shaken out and how it's going to look going into the points. Headed into Michigan, our Muhammad Alif wins at the Windy City Grand Prix. Just behind him, teammate Cale Davidson. Ryan Whitlock from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, charge on, finishes in third. Lucas Moody from Ball State is fourth, and the last car on the lead lap, Keegan Calick, able to scrap and fight for fifth. A great top 5 there for the rookie. Ricky Paz from ECU finishes sixth, his best road course finish of the season, and Wyatt Burton recovers up to seventh, just ahead of Nick Henley from Ball State. Aiken Lamar from Howard Community College, of course, finishes ninth, your best finishing alumni, and the rookie Grant Schiller from St. Clair finishes 10th.
The 11, Jason Wallet, silent race pays off for him as he charges forward. Dylan Beatty, the most entertaining man all night tonight, with Heartbreak will come home in 12th. Joseph Grijalva having a relatively quiet race as well in 13th. Benjamin Fiore getting tangled with Jake Cummins way back there in 17th. He'll bring it home for Ball State in 14th. Clint Halterman, who was considered to be the top of the alumni tonight, will bring the 100 home in 15th. Thomas Crump is 16th. Adrian Tubakovic is 19th. Andrew Vaught is 20th.
Rolling, finishing the race, in 21st, Nick Stockner only made it about 24 laps into this one. His teammate Andrew Burrell out after 10 laps. Jacob Dick from Ball State, 23rd, out after 6 in an incident there. Zohir Mirza from St. Clair, also out after 6 laps. Esteban Munoz, crash in turn 1, takes him out after 4. and Andrew McManus barely made it through one turn, although he did bring the Donkey Sanctuary in to sponsor this one, the Windy City Donkey Dash Grand Prix at the Chicago Street Course. And of course, just behind him, Carson Wallers and Caden Hughes unable to qualify for this race. So that is just about going to do it. Jackson, any closing thoughts?
I mean, at this point, it's just this was going to be the most chaotic race, I think, and that goes to show, I think, just how nuts potentially Michigan is going to be. I think it's going to take a miracle for anyone to get to our Muhammad Alif. And I think he's got a really, really good chance of getting his first oval win of the series right here at the buzzer. So going to be very, very interesting to see. But no, some really, really good clean racing here. And I know this race didn't end for a lot of guys the way they wanted to, but some pats on the back deserved for sure for a lot of these guys.
With that being said, the next time we will see the Formula College World Championship will be same time next week here on the same YouTube channel. If you want to make sure you don't miss that one, subscribe to our channel. It helps the league out a lot, and turn notifications on. We'll be bringing you live coverage from Michigan. That race starts 8:45 Eastern, 7:45 Central. That's not going to be one that you want to miss. If the oval races that we've had have been any indication, it's going to be crazy. Now we're going to add a much bigger track, more drafting. Michigan is just going to be a ton of fun. And then the next time that the CIL will go live will be next Monday. That is our final crown jewel. Got to plug that race. The Bristol Night Race, 200 laps at Bristol. That race will kick off at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Broadcast starts 30 minutes before that, so you're not going to want to miss that one either. That being said, thank you for joining us and watching today. I've been your host, Cade Corbin, joined in the booth by Jackson Lambros. Happy to bring you coverage from the Windy City Donkey Dash Grand Prix, and we